patchwork cables. They have the finest cables available and they're handmade. Don't forget to use the discount code asterisk for a 10% discount. Hi, this is Asterisk and welcome to Sound Design on a Sunday. So today we will be creating a synth out of this and making a beat using that sound. So let's get started. So one of the most annoying sounds that I've come across in my lifetime has been the beep code sequence from a Dell 3147. This sound is so loud and annoying that even the dog hates it. But I can hear musical value in it, and I wanted to try to experiment with making a synth out of it. So I pulled out the field recorder and I took a sample of one, and I'm going to bring it into Ableton, and I'm going to bring it in using the granulator too. So let's just kind of see what we have. Let's kind of figure out how many grains we need. Normally what I found is the more grains that you add to it, the better that it sounds. So let's see what we have. Okay, let's get rid of that delay. I hear dogs barking. Even dogs hate it. All right, let's see. What else can we do here? Trying to decide, do I want it to be a short or do I want it to be a long? That adds more resonance to it. Because of the frequency it's in. Okay, let's see what this one does. Okay, that's because it's in a... let's see. Okay. Okay, so let's see what else we want to do with this sound. Now that we have kind of a bass sound. Ooh. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it kind of plain, but I'm going to add some extra to it. So let's see what we can do to enhance the sound. I think I want to use thermal. Let's kind of see what we can manipulate this into with thermal. This is one of my favorite patches so far with thermal. Okay, so let's see what we can come up with extra. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. Let's see. Maybe I want to go back to my favorites. Let's see what we can do with the Spec Ops. And we're gonna do a filter first. That's really dirty. Let's see what we get with the sloped one. Alright, let's try the traditional one. Okay, so it looks like they all sound kind of the same. Let's go for experimental. Let's try the jigsaw slide. Oh, no, that's interesting. Okay, so let's... Okay, I kind of like that. Let me see. So I need to make a small adjustment to take out some of that distortion so that it's not so pitchy. better. Okay. So that's a really good combination. Let me add a little bit more of that. Okay, just tweaking a little bit to try to bring down some of those really high resolution kind of noises that are happening. Okay, so I think maybe I want to give it a little bit more dimension. And I want to do that. Let's try something we haven't played with that often. Let's try the Timeless 2 to see what we come up with. Alright. Alright, let's try some of their chorus. Oh, that's interesting. Now that definitely is a unique sound. Checking the frequency range. Almost has like a real interesting bell quality to it. Okay. Alright, let's... Okay, I'm just grouping all these together so that I can create like a custom instrument. So I'm going to call this one... oops. I don't want to do that. Now I'm going to have to go back and change that. Let's call this one error code. And I need to rename this back to be a granulator. Alright, cool. So now we have a custom patch with all of those sounds grouped together. And now in the future when I want to use this, I just go and pull up the error code advanced, which will bring in all of those together with this sound. So alright, now let's off to the beat. I'm gonna not put you through that because I may decide to do something different with sound. I'll make sure that I document that. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now we have a track, and I did still implement the same sound, but I ended up doing a little bit more work to it. So let me just kind of go back over it. So we still have the original sound in there with all the 3 things that I added, except I went for a halftime. I half-timed it 1 bar, brought it down in the mix, and I'm doing this pattern with it. Okay, so that's a pattern I decided to go with. I also pulled in a secondary melody, counter melody. Ooh, can't talk anymore. Counter melody is from Cymatic's Cobra Pack, and yep, I've been using the free stuff. Free stuff, you can't beat it. It's actually pretty good. Shout out to the guys over at Cymatics for putting together these crazy free kits that have really decent stuff in them that you could actually use. So I brought in this. So I've got a halftime on it. I've also EQ'd it some. So I've got a low cutoff on it, but then I didn't shape the mids and the highs just a bit. Just brought up the highs just a touch, and it's doing like a bell curve there. Brought in an RC20, and I'm using the Pad Magic. I never was a real fan of this thing when it first came out. But as I continue to play with it, I find that it does add some extra harmonics to things, kind of coloration kind of wise. So I've been just to really experiment with using it. I see a lot of people using this like on everything. I don't feel like that's necessary for me personally, because not everything needs to be distorted. I mean, come on. Everything doesn't need to have distortion. I'm using it very sparingly, and I only in appropriate, on appropriate situations. So, got both of these melodies going. I've got them panned off left and right, so they're not stacked on top of each other. Also, I again in the EQ range, I shaped it some because I wanted to bring up like the let's see, that's 11, yeah, about the 1100 range on the top end, so that it kind of stands out and stands away from this other sound that's in that real tight mid-range area. I didn't want them to be stacked on top of each other. So I did do a little bit of EQing to them. I added a kick, added a snare, and I've got some hats in there. And the overall drum pattern is more of a kind of a drill type drum sound pattern. I've got a sub in there, a sub lab. I've dropped in some thermal on top of it, and the thermal that I'm using, the patch, is Mothership. I do mess around with the settings on the back end, but I'm sorry, Output does an amazing job with their patches. You can literally get away with just going through these patches and changing some of the settings, and boom, you got something new. If you're not into sound design, but you want to start like tweaking and changing the way that those old plain old Jane old sounds that everybody on earth is using, you can start with a preset and go from there and build and alter and change without having to be a rocket scientist in the sound design realm. So that's what is beautiful about Output's plugins. They make it really simple and easy for you to be able to do that. But not only Output, a lot of the other plugin makers offer patches as well. Don't be afraid to use them. They're 100% excellent starting points. That's why they put them in there, so that they can showcase the plugin that they've created. Gives you like a starting point. You can always manipulate the sounds to your content, and don't let anybody else on planet Earth tell you that it's wrong to use a preset, because they lying, because they using presets too. I don't know why they so full of it. They be tripping. I'm just telling you, they be tripping. Because everybody uses presets. I don't even understand why we got on this whole thing about, oh, you're using a preset on every. Come on. Everybody uses a preset. The direction you decide to go with your use of the preset is your own personal business. The directions I take are my own personal business. Everything about music is subjective. So stop tripping, spreading negativity across the planet for people who are just starting out thinking that it's wrong to use presets. That is my soapbox speech for today. I'm getting off of it. Okay, so the next thing is I added some vocals, and with my vocals, I've got my normal stuff in there, the Echo Boy, the vocal writer to make sure that the vocals are not doing a high dance on me from the volume perspective. I've got that Shep's Omni channel, which is my absolute favorite to use. But I also added an Ableton EQ, and I'm just doing a low pass cutoff. Also doing some special automation. I know I've never probably talked about automation before on my channel. I do automation from time to time. It just really depends on what I'm feeling like. But on these vocals, let me just kind of show you what I did. So I'm using a plugin. Let me show you the name of the plugin. It's called Elastique, and it's by Z-Plane. And it's just this weird little plugin that has a couple of different types of effects. So let me just show you what they are. Let me pull this off to this. Let me pull it off over here so you can see it. Let me get it positioned so you can see what's happening. Okay, so let me bring in a new one so you could kind of see what the things are. Okay, so you can do pitch shifting, you can do timbre, voicing, freeze, feedback delay, feedback, and dry wet. So those are the things that you can turn on and turn off and do more automation with. So with what I'm doing with it, I decided I wanted to do some pitch shifting, and I've got a feedback change in there as well. So let me just kind of show you what that's doing, and let me isolate the vocals so you can hear what's happening.
I said Linda blow, I be moving slow. Yeah, she moving fast. I bless on the air. Bowing, I be geeking. Messed up and I'm sneaking. Doped up, I be tweaking. Shooting, I be clicking.
Okay, so again, I've got some pitch shifting and feedback. Feedback meaning it's like a doubling effect. And the pitch shifting is a downward effect, like that very low pitched downward drag out sound with vocals. This plugin I found, and I've used a lot of different types of plugins that do this kind of stuff. This one has been, for me, by far the easiest to deal with because you can really get granular with the pitch shifting. It's in this grid format, which is really beneficial because then you can really get in there and dig around and do the very granular pitch shifting. Of course, sometimes you have to really blow up the waveform view in Ableton to be able to get more granular pitch shifts or whatever manipulations that you're trying to add in there. But it's all about experimentation, is what I found. The more you experiment with it, the better you get at it. So also lately I've been trying to work on my intros. I was watching and participating in Producer Grind's vocal stems contest recently. I didn't submit anything to it because the stems that were provided, I just wasn't vibing with it. Doesn't mean that they were bad. You just have to have your matched energy level with the stems that you're working with, and I never could get there. And I don't want to make excuses about it. I probably should have went ahead and just submitted, but I don't really like submitting trash. When I know it's trash, I know somebody else is going to think it's trash, so I am not going to put myself out there like that. A lot of people that submitted had problems with tuning. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed for a lot of people. When you're working with vocals, you really have to pay attention to the tuning of them. And sometimes you also have to pay attention to the BPM that they're in because it can also affect the tuning. You just have to really spend a lot of time working with vocals to understand that when you're adding them to your tracks. There's no special workarounds that you can get beyond that other than dropping them in. Hoping also that your DAW has really good warping features, because that makes it easier too. Ableton has by far the best warping features that I've found, and that's why I continue to stay with it, because I can pull something in and instantly just warp it without doing a lot of brain damage thinking processes with matching the tempo and the timing, because it automatically snaps to grid as long as I have snap to grid turned on. A lot of other programs that I've worked with don't do that automatically. You actually have to change the tempo or go in and make some adjustments to the warp features to get them to match up, i.e., FL Studio. I spent a little bit of time with FL Studio recently, and I was curious about the warp features and how they worked, and I struggled with it because you have to manually go in there and change things, and I wasn't used to doing that. I guess I'm a little bit spoiled because Ableton is so flexible with its warp features that a lot of times you can again just drag things in there and then just make sure that you're matching the the overall tuning of what key the sample is in. And the way that I do that a lot of times, if I don't really know, is I'll drag in the tuner that's available. The tuner gives you an approximation of what key that the thing that you're listening to is in. So if I listen to the very first note, which is the root note, I can pretty much kind of tinker around with that key, and determine if I'm in the right range. Again, it's approximated, so I still have to use my ears too to make sure that I'm doing the right things. So hopefully that helps somebody when they're working with vocals, or actually with any sample. Even just regular samples, you have to really watch your tuning. Just like I had to do also with this cymatics. I didn't just drop that in there and know that it was in the right key, because its original key was G sharp. What I'm working with is an A flat, which is a completely different key. And when you look at the scale, that is nowhere near what's in A flat. So you need to spend time making sure that you are using a tuner, some kind of tuner. And I don't know if there's a tuner available with FL Studio. A lot of people are using FL Studio, and I spent very little time with it. I didn't. It's something about FL Studio that just doesn't. The workflow got me. I just couldn't get used to that workflow that it has. This is again by far been the best DAW that I've been working with since I got into music production. I started out using Pro Tools. I used Pro Tools for a long time. And then I switched over to Reason, thinking that I could find more flexibility in using Reason for production, and it wasn't it. It wasn't it at all. I moved from there into this, and I don't think I really want to move again. I am hoping that Ableton will continue to improve and update some things. There are some little workflow hiccups that could be changed in Ableton that make it a little bit challenging to work with at times. But by far, as an overall perspective of use, Ableton has been very easy to use for me once I got used to the arrangement and session view and how they kind of work together. I do a lot of my scratch building in the session view. I'll bring over samples, or I'll play in the parts and just kind of build a basic concept of how I want the song to go. And then when I'm ready to start building the song completely in a patterned way, I switch over to arrangement view, and then I just start working with my template. I have a template that I use. I deviate from the template depending on what project it is I'm working with. I've been trying to focus more on changing things up. After watching that producer grind competition, a lot of the tracks I noticed, they're the types of tracks that people are attracted to. The starts of those tracks are like catchers. They didn't spend a lot of time with giving you like an 8 bar intro. They start out with maybe a 4 bar intro, and then boom, right into the track. And that's really smart, very smart marketing of being able to use your music and grabbing attention. So I really like that. I use that as like a guide to understand what catches people's attention with music. I think that's a really good way for people to kind of grasp what's happening as well. What are the drum patterns that are being played? Um, what sounds are being used? What's catchy? How do you catch and capture people's attention? Um, and a lot of the songs, unfortunately, the for me, after you've listened to like 10 to maybe 15 songs, everything else is a drone. You don't hear any difference anymore. So I wish they would have like cut the contest down to only a group of 15, because everything after that you're just like going, fuck this, I don't want to hear it anymore. And it's really true. If you go back and watch the video, you'll see after about 15, maybe 20 tracks, people are just like, no, no, no. So I really found that to be really, really educational. And I'm spending some more time going back and re-listening to the very first part of that, I can hear more of those tracks that did catch people's attention, to kind of understand what's happening from a sound perspective, and pattern perspective, not necessarily like trying to encapsulate the note values of the songs that are played, but understanding the patterns that are being presented. I think it's important to be able to practice with that kind of stuff and, incorporate it into your own stuff. It helps you get better. But anyway, with this track, I added a sub, and I know you've heard me talk about this over and over again. It's true. I keep working with the subs. I think it's important that I get better with my patterning, with my subs, because it's important. It's a big part of trap music. The subs and the kicks and the snares and the hi-hats, they're all like one big part of what makes trap music. And if they're not sounding right, then it makes a big difference. So I'm working with a lot more gliding patterns, doing more complicated or complex kinds of glides, and really trying to tighten those things up. Also working more with the way that the sub sounds, using sounds that are more appealing from a bass perspective. Not necessarily adding more deep bass, but accentuating the bass by adding more saturation or harmonics to it, which is why I've used the thermal. The thermal allowed me to be able to add more harmonics to it so that you could actually hear it, if even if you're on like your phone, earbuds, headphones, in the car, you can hear it when you add more harmonics to it. So I am going to play the track, and that's all I've got for this one. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. Also, help grow the channel. Very new. I've not been here for a long time, but I've been here for about 2 years. I'm pretty consistent with uploading videos. I'm uploading every week, twice a week. I missed my twice a week this week because I've been busy with work, my day job. But I do try to catch up on the weekends, and I try to do content that's kind of a mixed bag of sound design, musical elements, also genres. Those are the types of things that I've been covering as of late. Also mixing. I've been focusing on mixing as well. giving mixing advice and tips and things that I've been experiencing and working on from a growth perspective for myself. So I hope that a lot of the information that I've been presenting is helpful to you guys. I will continue to try to come up with different ways to present the material. If you have anything special that you want to see or want to hear, please leave it in the comment section, and I'll definitely get it in on the video ad list. Well, that's all I've got, and I'll see you guys on the next one, and thank you for watching.
Strict music, the invasion has begun. I sell in that blow, I been moving slow. Yeah, she moving fast, I bless on that air. Going, I be geeking, messed up and I'm sneaking. Doped up, I be tweaking, shooting, I be clicking. Messed up